Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a new comprehensive guide for Lianorn, one of the best decks, well actually one of the best 4 decks in standard at the moment with the introduction of DBT 13. So just going through the various deck builds that Lianorn Vivace kind of gives to Lianorn as a whole. Lianorn has kind of been overshadowed for a long time, and with Vivace this deck has been pretty insane, has seen some tops in Japan as well. If you guys need any coaching, my Metafy link is in the bottom right hand corner. Feel free to book a session and we can get started. If you guys haven't done it already, click that subscribe button for all notifications on this channel of the new videos that I release. So Lianorn has, I guess, 2 deck builds. One is oriented around Mask, and then one that is just pure Vivace. So these two decks kind of work in some aspects similar to each other, but various different approaches when it comes to certain turns. So in particular, let's talk about Lianorn Mask first. So the one with the inclusion of Mask. So this deck runs the Zorga ride line, and the idea is pretty much you're ditching your habitats, you're getting your habitats to find your units. So the habitats are there, and then obviously, you know, if you get your Mask, then you know you're chilling, right? You also have like ways to be able to find your units as you know the turns go by. Obviously, it's really important to find your Luster Impact and your Dragon Tree Wretch, because obviously you want to find your your Mask to, I guess, re-ride into Lianorn Mask. So being able to use the Zorga ride line allows you to, I guess, ditch these like orders that you don't really need, I guess, from your hand, just to draw 2, find your pieces that you want, and kind of get on with the game, right? The good thing about the grade 2 is that if you ditch your Mask early game, or if you ditch your habitats within the first ride ditch, or you know, ride deck ditch, then you get it back to hand and then just set it straight away. When you set it on grade 2, then obviously your habitats will be able to find unit cards that are equal or less than your Vanguard. So pretty much your targets are usually your Dragon Tree Wretch, so that you can find your Massive Hydrogrim or your Luster Impact Dragon, and yeah, that's pretty much the core of the deck. Then both decks run the Grand March Lianorn. I think this Lianorn is just much stronger if, for example, you ever like just kind of sit on it, but otherwise, yeah, there's not really much difference. If you can't afford this Lianorn, the trial deck Lianorn is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think the idea is that this is the more efficient grade 3 of Lianorn out of this and the trial deck one, so you're obviously using the more optimal one. Then looking at the rest of the deck, so this deck only runs 3 Vivace, and the reason why is that we're mainly focused around Mask, especially if you're going second Mask. The Mask variant is very strong because you get Persona Ride straight up on turn 3. Whereas if you are going first, then you obviously don't get the Persona Ride, but you get everything that the Mask does anyways. So just explaining what Vivace does. Unison Dress. So when this unit is placed by riding from a unit with Unison Dress, so either over itself or a unit with Lianorn in its different card name, so you essentially don't ride it over itself. So you can't proc Unison Dress by riding over itself. You draw a card, and then this unit is in Unison Dress for the rest of the game, right? If you can, I guess, if you Persona Ride over, then that particular unit loses Unison Dress, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, oh no, but you ride over something that has Unison Dress, so it will keep Unison Dress. So Unison Dress, let's just say if you keep rewriting Vivace, you will have Unison Dress. All right, that's just a blanket rule, right? And then once per turn, when this unit is in Unison Dress, which it will always be, and when it attacks while not being boosted, you stand all your rear guards, and all your units boost regardless if they have the boost icon or not. And then if you boosted 3 or more units at the end of battle, you can come +1, choose 3 of your units and stand them, and this unit gets +5k and -1 drive. Notice that it says 3 units, which means that it can restand itself as well. So you essentially get 6 attacks, and yeah, that's just how strong this card really has given Lianorn in terms of its package. So that's that. Then just looking at Lianorn Mask, this is a card that obviously got released a little bit earlier on, can only be ridden over a grade 3 Lianorn, which is your ride deck. If you remove a Lianorn with a different card name from hand, soul, or drop, so meaning that it can remove Vivace as well, then you can call a card grade 1 or less from drop to rearguard, and then your opponent has to retire one of their rearguards. The last effect is auto. When this unit attacks, choose up to 3 of your back row standing units with boost. So it's not like Vivace where if you have grade 2s in the back, then you can boost. If you boosted with 3 or more units, then you can counterblast 1, choose 2 of your rearguards and stand them. This card is good if you're going second, because you mask up, get Persona Rad, and then your front row units are actually pretty big. So that's that. Pretty much 5 attacks again, whereas Vivace is 6. Then I guess the new PR that English got is Luster Impact Dragon. This card actually makes a lot of difference for Lianorn. There is actually another PR that Lianorn doesn't have yet, and it's a grade 1. So I'm not going to include that in the deck list for now, but once that comes into English, definitely put that in. I'll explain in terms of what cards to cut a little bit later on in this video. So Luster Impact Dragon, during your turn, if your back row has 2 or more grade 1 or less rearguards, this unit gets boost plus 5k. So it's a 15k booster in the back row, and your opponent can barely touch it, right? When this unit stand by the ability of your Vanguard with Lianorn in its card name, in this particular case, if your Vanguard is 33k or more, which is pretty much always, so plus 1, draw a card, this unit gains plus 5. So it's a 20k attacker. It's a 20k attacker, because if you have 2 grade 1 or less in the back row, then it's plus 5, so it's 15. And then itself gains plus 5. So it's a 20k attacker, and it draws you 1 for soul plus 1. I guess the only thing about this deck is that it's very soul intensive. So if you find, you're running out of soul, you kind of need to have a way to produce soul. But yeah, that's kind of one of the drawbacks with Lianorn. You have to be a little bit selective with the soul use that you use for this deck. The Dragon Tree Wretch, counterblast 1, soul plus 1, create a Dragon Tree marker and a search for the Massive Hydrogum. Everyone knows that. We play one of the Carbuncle, so we play 1 Green Jewel Beast Elmadar, and the reason why we play 1 is that when you mask up, you remove a Lianorn from the game, which means that you only ever have 3 ride deck targets in your drop or your soul. So you can only ever remove 2, you can't remove 4. Right? So you only play 1 if you see it, good. If you don't, then who cares, right? So you play 1, and essentially this soul charges 2, and that's a really big thing, because in this deck, obviously, as I mentioned before, soul is a very scarce resource. If it's placed on Guardian Circle, then it becomes a 20k shield. Shield is always good. Then Rosarium Fairy, this is a staple in Lianorn, a very, very strong deck. Strong card, sorry. When it's placed on rearguard, you can retire another rearguard and call 2 plant tokens. So you pretty much can sacrifice, any garbage to create 2 tokens and rush in the early game. Very, very strong. And then the second effect is when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is Lianorn and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, choose one of your other back row rearguards, increase this unit's power by that unit until the end of battle. So you select your Luster Impact Dragon, this becomes automatically 23k with no worries. Absolutely busted. So yeah, very heavy attacker, just as a grade 1, and it gives rush potential in the early game for Lianorn to keep up the pace of game. And then that's pretty much it. So you play 3 and 1 Elementaria, you can play 4 PGs if you don't have access to Elementaria, that's fine. 4 heals, so you can play other effect heals based on the metagame at the moment. I think restand heals are pretty good at the moment because you're playing against Jejuled and Bastion Accord. And Mushi King as well. I think Mushi King is a pretty dominant deck at the moment, so I think restand heals are actually pretty good. 3 draws, and 1 OT, because you obviously really need to find the pieces in your deck. This deck doesn't actually draw into a lot until it spams the Luster Impact Dragon and obviously Vivace. And then 8 crit, and then the orders that you run is 2 mask, because you can search it off the Wretch. The Wretch essentially is a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th copy of your mask, so you don't really need to overdose on your mask. For habitats, you want to find, I guess, cards from your deck, start calling them. Rosarium Fairy, if you find it early, then you pretty much sack something off, and then, you know, you create 2 plant tokens. Really good, keeps the board state alive. So what does Misty Arc Habitat do? Look at the top 7 and choose 1 unit card with grade less and equal to your Vanguard. Call it to rearguard and shuffle your deck. And then if you were to search this from deck, so i.e. if you use this and search Misty Arc, then you can search or choose this card as a unit, right? And then if it's put into the, if it's put onto rearguard, well, if you call it right, then it goes into your hand instead of the drop, right? The good thing about that is then I guess you can just spam it for the next turn, which is always ideal. Always a fodder for perfect guards as well. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck list for Lianorn Mask. The code is NHWN, so if you guys want to have a look at that, I'll put it in the description below. Now looking at the Pure Vivace deck, so this is very different to how you would usually play with the Mask deck. And the reason why is that the ride line you play, the Roro ride line, so you want to focus early on the early rush. You're playing pretty much the same grade 3. The grade 1 Roro essentially allows you to create a plant token in the back row center, which means that you're attacking for 13k, your opponent can't just drop a 15k to guard your Vanguard, which is actually pretty annoying. If you hit a crit, then you're already up in tempo. Then the grade 2 Roro, you just retire one of your rear guards and create 2 plant tokens. The benefit of this is that you retire the one behind your Vanguard that you got from the grade 1, and then you pretty much call a column, so you go 10 and 10, which means that your opponent has to guard 2 columns without committing anything. So yeah, very aggressive ride line. And then obviously the Lianorn grade 3, as I explained before. This deck runs 4 Vivace, wants to max out on Vivace obviously, and then it plays Resonance Dragon. So what does Resonance Dragon do? If your unit's boosted a total of 3 or more times this turn, this unit gains +5, so it's an 18k, 28k on Persona Ride. At the end of battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If you have a Lianorn Vanguard, which you always do, and your unit's boosted a total of 5 or more times this turn, you can cover +1, put this unit into Soul, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. So you actually can get more than 6 attacks, right? So you attack once, twice, Vivace 3, 4, and then Resonance Dragon 5, Vanguard 6, and then Resonance Dragon will obviously restand the other one, so it actually attacked for 7 times. 7 times in standard is actually pretty disgusting. And yeah, on top of Persona Ride as well, very, very strong card. I explained Luster Impact Dragon before. There is another grade 2 that we run in the normal deck, which is the Cycle card. Cycle card, if you discard it, Soul Blast from bottom deck and draw a card using the during the ride phase. And then if it's placed on rear guard, you can come +1. If you Persona Ride this turn, then you stun 2 of your opponent's rear guards. So yeah, stun them. They can't intercept, so that means it's 5k less shield, for all that matters. Then you play this grade 1, so Rhythm of Joy Alentus. During your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Lianorn, this is a 10k base, and then if it's in Unison Dress, then it's a 13k base. Well, 13k base on your turn, yeah. At the end of turn, if your Vanguard was boosted a total of 3 or more times, you can retire this, draw 1, and then counter charge. So it's a utility card, good for this deck because this deck slightly chews into Counterblast, especially if you're using Resonance Dragon and the Cycler card. Cycler card sometimes actually comes in quite handy, especially against like decks like Ava. That Cycler card just says no to Ava, you just don't intercept, but also it just means that your opponent has less cards to guard with, and on the next turn your opponent kind of has to commit over those rear guards to, I guess, play the game a bit better. In this deck we played 2 of the Carbuncle because now we have access to 4 of our ride line instead of 3. So at any point in the game that becomes a Soul Charge 2 or Soul Charge 4 or value of 40k. Rosarium Fairy I explained before, and then the trigger lineup is the same. Again, if you want to use 4 PGs, you're welcome to. So yeah, that's pretty much the list. This is the list with 50 cards where it's 46 and 4. Now, if, for example, we have access to the 4 new PRs in either deck, I would immediately put 4 of those PRs straight in. That PR really bumps the consistency of Lianorn as a whole. So if you have access to that, then great. Now, if you don't have access to, I guess, the PRs, you can actually get away with running like maybe like 2 resonance in here, and then you could probably include some of the stuff that is from the pure Lianorn deck into Mask. So stuff like the Rhythm of Joy, if you want to find that, you know, you have a way to just draw cards and then I guess counter charge, you can use Olympus. Cycle cards are always good. So if you're, you know, you find that you want to use cycle cards in here, then great. But this deck actually chews into a lot of soul because you're using soul for Luster Impact, the Wretch, and then obviously, you know, other stuff. If you start putting in the cycle card, then obviously you're using soul as well. So just being a bit mindful of the cycle card in this particular deck, just because of its soul usage, because you want to capitalize on other things as well. But then again, you know, if you're using the cycle card, it's equivalent to, I guess, using Luster Impact anyways. A 1-for-1 trade, because you're ditching the Ride deck, so you're drawing 1 card earlier than what Luster Impact would be doing, because Luster Impact would be a turn 3 card instead of a turn 2 card or a turn 1 card. So yeah, cycle cards are always good. Otherwise, you know, you can slot in habitats if you want to find stuff here. You can actually change the ride line if you play 4 habitats or more orders. So yeah, you can kind of mix and match, but I think the main one is that if the promo comes out for Lianorn later in the year, or actually more like next year, then I would definitely put those 4 PRs in. So let's go through a simulation of how Lianorn Mask, well, the integration of Lianorn Mask with Vivace kind of works, kind of what to keep in the starting hand, and kind of what you want to draw into once you get to your turn 3 and turn 4. And I think that's pretty important because both builds, the mulligans are like vastly different, and the number of cards that you actually have to keep for, I guess, your starting hand and going towards turn 3, turn 4, one is more than the other. So we'll go through Lianorn Vivace with the Mask variant first, and then we'll go through the pure one afterwards. So just gonna shuffle up top 5. Cool, so you want to see Lianorn Mask, and you also want to see a massive Hydreigon, and you want to see Vivace, which is essentially what we see here. The Rosarium Fairy is actually pretty good here, but it's not as needed as the other 3. I think the other 3 have, I guess, more merit. In this deck, because we're playing the Zorga ride line, we kind of want to see orders as well. So if you see the Mask, then, you know, you're ditching it for the Chain Rancor, and then you're getting it back from the skull, the Husk Dragon, right? So here we'll just return the Mask because we can filter 1 out later with the Wretch. And then I think the Rosarium Fairy is actually pretty good here. Maybe we'll retire 1 to call 2, but I guess we don't really generate much in the early game. So I guess, I don't know, this one's a little bit hard. I guess we don't really need to keep this. Sure, let's roll it back, right? If we get a Luster Impact, then it's pretty good. So we got these 5. Cool. All right, let's just say we're going first, because going first is drastically different to going second, just because of the Persona Ride effect on the Mask when you ride up to Lianorn Mask. So draw 1 here. We want to keep that order in hand because obviously we want to ditch it for the ride line. So ride this, skill, Soul Blast, draw 2. We didn't get an order, but we can ditch the Mask. Call it a turn, end turn, you take a damage, and then stand and draw. Here we have double Wretch. Double Wretch is not that great. We also have double Vivace, which is a little bit odd. So it's like a turn 5 card. So you actually can ditch this one here and find it later on. So we'll ditch the Vivace, ride this. Skill, we grab our Mask back to hand. Let's call this... Now, it depends here what you want to do. So if you CB1 here to find a Mask, then you're prone to a damage deny, which may or may not be annoying, right? With this hand also, it's not too great of a hand because you essentially need cards to boost. So we find a Lost the Impact Dragon, then it's pretty good. But we did ditch we Soul Blasted the Roroa for the ride line. So we can, I guess, revive that once we get to Lianorn Masks. But we also do need to commit a bit more to, I guess, get the 5 attacks off. So I think the 5 attacks is way more impactful, and then like I guess the Wretch later, you can use it later. So 10, check 1, Lost the Impact Dragon's good. That's what you want, right? Get to turn 3, you pop it in the back row, Soul Blast 1, draw 1, 15k, 20k booster is pretty good. Call it a turn. Your opponent attacks you 1, Power Vanguard, draw 1, attacks the rear guard. Alright, stand and draw. So here, it's a little bit annoying. Here, you have to kind of see whether getting the effect of the mass is worth it or getting the Misty Arc, and I think the Misty Arc is better. Purely because we've seen 2 Wretches and we've seen 1 Lianorn Mask. 2 Lianorn Mask because 1 is in damage, so there's actually only 4 other targets in the deck. So the likelihood of this hitting is actually not that high. So I'm just going to ditch the Mask and ride up to this. So you can use the CB1 to draw 1 and call, which I think is actually pretty good. So I'll CB1, draw 1, and then call the Lust Impact. Lust Impact in the back row is really good because you essentially get 15k booster, 20k booster on restand, which is really good. Cool. Then we'll use the Mask, put it in, and then you mask up. And then here, let's see if we can use any other Soul Blasting skills. I think it's alright. So I'll Misty Arc first, and then search my top 7 for any of these. Ooh, the Rosarium Fairy is pretty good. A bit annoying because I have to kind of retire another rearguard to get it off. But I guess it's a good attacker as well. So, yeah, I guess we'll call the Rosarium Fairy. Yeah, sure. So let's call the Rosarium Fairy. So we're gonna call 1. That's in the front row, so we'll get the power of that. So I think the Rosarium Fairy is actually pretty good in this column. Let's put that there. I think that still has to play as a booster though, which is kind of annoying. Oh, I guess you can commit like one of these as a booster because you're gonna remove the Lianorn here and then get the Roroa. And then we can just like drop a heal, right? 5k is pretty good. So Lust the Impact Dragon gains +5 because we have a grade 1 or 2 more grade 1 or less in the back row. So you're actually boosting for 26, which is a 39, I think. Yeah, my math is correct, yep. And then this is 10, and this is, yeah, pretty fat. So you can like boost it for 15, so it's a 23. 28 when it restands, which is pretty good. So you want to restand like these 3 because then you have a boosted column, and then Rosarium Fairy, if you stack triggers on it, then it hits over defensives, which is pretty good. Your opponent's on grade 2 anyways, so let's go for 10. And then here, when this unit attacks, because I have a Lianorn Vanguard, oh well, your opponent's not grade 3 or greater, which is kind of annoying. So maybe it is better if we just... maybe we don't commit that. Maybe we just like put the Rosarium Fairy at the back and then you promote it in the next turn. So you can go like 10, 10, and then attack, skill. You choose 3 standing units with boost. So you have all 3 of these because this gains boost if I have 2 or more grade 1 or less rear guards. So you boost these. So these will become plus 29. So 29. So you're attacking for 42, which is pretty good. And then at the end of the battle, you cannibals 1, you stand 3 units, right? So you check 1, check 2, cool. And then you use the skill to CB1, stand 3. So stand 1, stand 2, stand 3. When you stand the Lust the Impact Dragon, you can Soul Blast 1 because it's above 33k, Soul Blast 1, and then you draw 1, and that gains +5, right? 10, sure, whatever, and then 30. Right, okay, call it a turn. Let's just say we guard 1, and then, yeah, we take 1 more. Sure, I'll take 1 more, and then let's just say we guard the last one, right? Oh, actually, let's keep this one, and then we'll like, I don't know, intercept with this. Okay, cool. Stand and draw. We ride now Vivace. So the best thing about this is that Vivace, you can attack with your rear guards boosted first, and then restand them all, and then boost the Vanguard, right? So you can push the Rosarian Fairy to the front, and then with Misty Arc, the first one should have been there, so top 7. And then we have another Luster Impact Dragon, which is actually pretty good. Both of these are 15, so they become boosters, which is really good. And you can actually put them at the back. Well, this one you can promote at the front because the grade 2 gets boost regardless of, I guess, Lianorn's effect, right? So, I guess that's alright. I mean, the rest isn't too shabby, I guess. So each of these gain +5, which is good. And then this can copy 15, so it's a 23 by itself and 38, which is really strong. And then this has a 25, so it hits over defensives. And then so we attack. So we go 25. And then this will then copy the power of one of my back rows, so +15, till the end of that battle. And then, so this is 38. And then Vivace. Vivace attacks, and then it cannot boost, right? Don't boost with this, right? What it does is that it restands everything, and then everything boosts Vivace. So this is what? 38, 48, 54, 64, 69. So +69 to Vanguard. Pretty gross, right? So everything, you know, rests because everything rests because you're boosting, and then at the end of the battle, then you come +1 and then restand 3 units, right? So 82 is actually a pretty hard number to guard. So you check 1, crit's pretty good. This one is a 23, so you don't need to really pump that. This is a 10k, so I guess it's all right. But sometimes, like when you restand, you're only going to be 18. 18 plus 20 plus 10 is like 28. Pretty good number. So let's put it onto the Vanguard. And then sometimes you don't really want to restand all 3 of the front row, because sometimes you just don't hit numbers, right? So power there, and then second check, nothing, cool. And then you can come +1, choose 3 of your units, and stand them inclusive of the Vanguard, and then stand and drive -1. So you're going to stand this. So obviously it's gonna, you know, lose the power. And then let's stand these 2. But standing the double luster is like pretty good, but you're just drawing cards. So you stand 2, the Luster Impact Dragon at the back, you can still +1 and draw 1. So +10, and then this will copy something else, which is pretty good. So this gains +5, or +10 from the trigger, and then +5 for its own skill, and then it's -1 drive, so 28, check 1. And then this will copy the number of Luster Impact, so it's +20 now. So this is 28 by itself, really disgusting number, and then 20, so this is 48, right? So hit 48, and that is a turn for Lianorn Vivace turn, right? Really, really strong numbers, and Vivace really carries the deck. Just because of how strong this card is. I think this is what makes Lianorn so, how should I say, it becomes a top meta contender, right? So now we've looked at the mask variant, so let's go to the pure variant. The pure variant's a little bit different, but it has more attacks. So if I load up Pure Vivace, we'll do that. So obviously we're running the Royal line, which is good because then it's minimal commitment in the early game so that you rush, right? Top 5, again, this one is a little bit different. You want to keep your cycler cards, and you also want to keep Vivace. So we don't have anything, roll everything else kind of back. Rosarian Fairy is actually really good here because the rearguard that you get off the ride line, you can actually sack up 2 more plant tokens, making 2 beefy columns. So it actually does matter. So keeping the Rosarian Fairy here is actually pretty good. So grabbing the 3, cool. All right, stand and draw. Let's just say we're going first again. We're gonna draw 1. Oh, Vivace is good, so we ditch the cycler. We ride 1. We call 1 token, obviously, to the back row. You soul us 1. Put the cycler card to the bottom, and then draw 1. Cool. We don't need to play the Rosarian Fairy here. The reason being is that next turn, you put this behind the Vanguard, it becomes 18. Your opponent's not gonna guard that, right? Let's just say, you know, your opponent attacks for 1 damage here, which is the center column. With this particular deck, it doesn't really care too much about the CB. If you CB on turn 3, you're essentially getting a draw 1, so you actually can afford to guard early, right? So let's say we guard 15, cool. And then, yeah, that's it for their turn, stand and draw. Here, our hand is a-okay. Maybe the Rosarian Fairy is just alright. Don't really need to guard. The 15k I think is pretty valuable here, so let's ditch the Rosarian Fairy you ride. So you obviously call in 2 tokens because you sack this one. And the Rosarian Fairy here sacks 1 and then calls 2. So we're just going to call the 2 that were retired. It's pretty important to keep the other one there because that means that you have extra boosters for next turn, especially if your hand is garbage like mine. So yeah, here the one thing is, like, if your opponent attacks into a Riga, then you get damage denied, but that means that it's 1 less turn that you have to guard from your opponent, and that doesn't really matter to us, right? So you got 10 and then 18, check 1, crit, cool. You just push your opponent to 2 damage, which is where you kind of want them, and then you end turn. Cool, let's just say your opponent damage denies you, yep, whatever, stand and draw. So the actual impact of damage denying here is actually very minimal, right? You actually gain a lot out of this because the 1 card that you would have used to guard actually is compensating the 1 card that you would draw off the Lianorn, right? So here, you ditch the cycler card, you ride the Lianorn, cycler card, you soul blast 1, you bottom deck the cycler, and then you draw 1. Cool. So I guess the Elmadar is alright here. You can soul charge 2. So I guess you can put it into the back row here, and let's just say you return the double Roroas there and there, and then you soul charge 2. Soul charging 2 here is actually pretty good. And then obviously you lose your other Elmadar, which is fine. That's okay. And then Lianorn, for the cost of soul blast 1, discard 1, it gets 1 drive, and then you stand 2 of your back row. So what happens is you can commit, like, you heal to the back. You don't really care if your opponent takes out a token, I guess. So you're essentially boosting for what? 16, 21, 21, 13 is 34. And then you restand for 13 and 10. Your opponent's on grade 2, which is good because 10 hits grade 2 numbers if they don't hit the defensive, right? So battle phase, skill, use soul blast 1. Sure, we'll discard this, and then you boost with these 3. And then that gains plus 8, 13. Cool. And then 34. You get triple drive, so check 1, check 2, check 3. Alright, so heal, you pop it onto this side, doesn't really matter, same numbers anyways, you don't heal. And then at the end of battle, I stand 2 of these. This hits for 10, this hits for 23, right? Sure, your opponent deals you some damage, cool. Hit a heal, sure, and let's just say we, ditch a heal or something. Your opponent can't get over defensive, so they killed like a token or something. Cool. So next turn, stand and draw. Lost the Impact Dragon is very welcome, so you ride the Vivace. And here, you actually push up the Elmadar, and everything kind of boosts, so you can call this here. You can also commit the Rosarian Fairy to the front if you want to, but then again, it's like overplacing this. I guess you are hitting over defensives, which is good, so I think, yeah, it's pretty valuable to put the Rosarian Fairy in the front. Okay, so this game's +5, you obviously have more than, 1 grade 1 or less, or more than 2 grade 1 or less regards. So that's 23 that side. This will be 8 plus 15 plus 5, this is 28. And then this will boost for 8, 16, 24, 29, 39, 44, right? 44k, so you're attacking for 57, right? So this side, that number's bigger, so this is 23. This will copy Lost the Impact, so plus 15 till the end of battle. So this is 28. And then Vivace, don't boost. You restand everything. And then you boost everything to Lianorn. And then, so what's that? 23, 48, right? No, this is till the end of that battle. So 8, 8, 16, 24, 29, 39, 44. 44. So you're attacking for 57 and you stand 3 rear guards, right? Check 1, check 2. Cool, we got a Vivace for next turn, which is a Persona ride, very welcome. And then skill, use CB1, you stand 3 rear guards, so you stand the Rosarian Fairy, stand the Vanguard, and then I guess you can stand the Lust Impact. Anything that you get off triggers, just pop it on the Lust Impact, because this will, it actually doesn't really matter. If you pump it onto the Lust Impact, then again it's like more. But even if you restand this, restanding an 8k is very invaluable, so it's not as good. So you actually stand the Lust Impact here, you Soul Blast 1, let's just Soul Blast this, and then you draw 1, plus 5. Obviously this is not plus 44 anymore. Gains plus 5 for its own skill, so it's 18. And it gets neg1 drive, so 18, cool, check 1. And then this copies, so this was plus 15 before, so this is 8k, 8k attacks, copies 20, so this is plus 20, so 28, right? All hitting over defensives, which is really strong. And then you have like, what, 1, 2, 3 null, 4 nulls for next turn. And then you rewrite Vivace, and that's pretty much it, right? The only good added thing with Pure Vivace is that you have access to Resonance Dragon, so in the place of Elmadar, what you can do is, like, if you stand the front row, right, then Rosarian Fairy will copy this attacks, puts it into Soul, stands the Rosarian Fairy, and then the Rosarian Fairy copies Luster Impact again, which is really, really strong. That's what you want, and that's why Rosarian Fairy is a very, very strong card in Lianorn. And that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this comprehensive guide on Lianorn. Probably not the best explanation on a lot of things. I've invested a lot of my time into Musha King, if you guys haven't noticed already. But this deck is still very strong. One of the best 3 decks in the format, plus 1 is Musha King. So one of the best 4 decks in the format at the moment. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of everything that I've explained in this video. Have you guys played Lianorn before? If you guys haven't, did this guide help you? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.